Just to let folks know, we're going to be hitting the record button shortly, and then the next thing you'll hear is Kate, and we're going to start the show.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Crime and Justice Institute at Community Resources for Justice is pleased to present and welcome you to the Wednesday series, Using Science and Criminal Justice to Achieve Better Results. Today's webinar is titled Implementing Evidence-Based Policies and Practices in Community Corrections. Hello, everyone. My name is Kate Florio, and I'm the Director of Business Development and Planning at the Crime and Justice Institute. CJI provides nonpartisan consulting, policy analysis, and research services to improve public safety in communities throughout the country. We work with a diverse group of practitioners and policymakers, including corrections officials, courts, law enforcement, and political and community leaders in state and local jurisdictions across the country. To begin this webinar, we have a quick poll for you, our audience, to get a sense of whether you work primarily in a county, state, or federal jurisdiction. While we gather your responses, we'll give you an overview of today's agenda. First, we have a brief featured presentation by Mr. George Kaiser of NIC, followed by a panel discussion and then an interactive question and answer session with the audience. The poll shows that the majority of you, roughly 80%, Okay, 80% of you have seen the box set. We have tried to make sure that the webinar series and the box set papers are able to reach a diverse audience, and we hope that you will be able to benefit from both. Developed in follow-up to the release of the box set papers, the Wednesday series of webinars has been thoughtfully designed to reach diverse audiences and stakeholder groups by incorporating their various perspectives, all aligned by the principles of evidence-based practice. And the principles of evidence-based practice can in fact be applied at both the county and state levels. This webinar is the first of a 7-part series that will take place each second Wednesday of the month until September. The Wednesday series have been adapted from our box set of stakeholder papers, which CJI created under a cooperative agreement with the National Institute of Corrections. We'd like to take a moment and ask you, our audience, whether you've had a chance to see and view our box set. When you see the poll come up on your screen, please choose the yes or no. Shows that the majority of you have been able to already see some of our box set papers, which is fantastic. The papers focus on the application of the evidence-based principles for reducing recidivism. The papers are addressed to various criminal justice stakeholders and discuss how the implementation of evidence-based practice and a focus on reducing reoffense affect areas of expertise in community corrections, judiciary, prosecution, defense, trial services, jail, prison, and the provision of treatment. Each of the papers is available for free download on CJI's website. You will also be able to find more information on the remaining webinars in this series and descriptions of our current projects and recent publications at cjinstitute.org. The website address will also appear on the last slide of the webinar presentation. Be sure to mark your calendars for the upcoming webinars in the Wednesday series. Before we begin, we would like to remind you to keep your phones on mute, and at any time throughout the webinar, you are able to submit questions for our panel directly through the chat, the question function on your screen. So if at any time a question comes to mind, please feel free to type that in. We will collect them for our panelists later in the event. Following a brief presentation by Mr. George Kaiser of the National Institute of Corrections, we will begin the panel discussion and then respond to those questions we've collected from you. We will try and answer as many questions as time allows, and will make available the remaining responses via a frequently asked questions sheet that will be accessible on CJI's website. Both the FAQ sheet and the PowerPoint with audio will be available again for free download on CJI's website. We hope you enjoy the webinar and look forward to hearing your comments and feedback on the brief evaluation following the completion of this webinar. Thank you. Finally, I'd like to introduce our featured presenters and panel members for today. First, we have our featured presenter, Mr. George Kaiser. He is the Chief of the Community Corrections Division for the National Institute of Corrections, an integral part of the Federal Bureau of Prisons in the U.S. Department of Justice. George oversees NIC programs and services that are designed to improve policy for and management of pretrial, probation, and parole agencies, residential community corrections facilities, and other community-based corrections programs throughout the U.S. and its commonwealths and territories. Throughout his tenure, George has advanced the implementation of evidence-based policy and practice as the business standard of community corrections. George has a joint degree in sociology and psychology from Iowa State University and a master's in social work from the University of Iowa. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Kate. It's nice to be with you from sunny Sacramento.
Fantastic. Next, we have Ms. Sally Kramer. Ms. Kramer is the Director of Community-Based Corrections for the 5th Judicial District Department of Corrections Services in Des Moines, Iowa. Community-based corrections in Iowa covers pretrial release, probation, parole, pre-sentence investigations, and residential services, including work release. Ms. Kramer began her career as a residential advisor in a work release facility and went on to carry a caseload as a probation and parole officer, pre-sentence investigator, treatment provider, and supervisor. She's been involved in the implementation of evidence-based practices since the early 1990s, having been involved in statewide implementation of cognitive-based programs and the LSIR, or Level of Service Inventory, revised. She obtained her bachelor's degree from Iowa State University and her master's degree from the University of Cincinnati. Welcome, Sally.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we have Mr. David Guntharp. As Director of the Arkansas Department of Community Corrections, David serves as a member of the Governor's Cabinet and directs the agency that provides statewide probation and parole supervision, community correction centers for nonviolent offenders, and various community corrections programs such as drug courts and day reporting centers. His career in corrections began in the early 1970s in juvenile probation, led him through the correction system to a position of Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Correction, and has culminated in his position as Arkansas Director of Community Corrections. He earned a BA in Business in 1973 from Arkansas State University and a Master's in Criminal Justice in 1990 from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Welcome, David.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome from the great state of Arkansas.
Thank you. And finally, I'd like to introduce Texas State Representative Jerry Madden. Representative Madden serves as Vice Chairman of the House Committee on Corrections and also is a member of the Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence Committee. Owing to his extensive knowledge of criminal justice best practices and able negotiating skills, Representative Madden has developed and passed key probation and parole reform policies that have saved Texas $1 billion or more that otherwise would have gone into prison construction, while simultaneously improving public safety by increasing access to drug and alcohol treatment, expanding opportunities to successfully reintegrate offenders back into the communities through such means as transitional housing, and has participated in ongoing efforts to fix the state's juvenile justice system. Representative Madden is in his 9th term representing House District 67, which is located in southwestern Collin County, including parts of Dallas and Richardson. In 2007, Texas Monthly named him one of its 10 best legislators, primarily for his leadership in overhauling the Texas Youth Commission. Upon graduating from the West Point Military Academy, Representative Madden spent 6 years in the U.S. Army and then earned a master's from the University of Texas at Dallas. Welcome, Representative Madden.
I'm honored to be with everybody. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank